Hello everyone and welcome back to the Synergy Sanctum. My name is Justin. Thank you so much for stopping by. Here at the Synergy Sanctum, we specialize in all things related to Magic the Gathering with a specific focus on deck building. So I aim to show you very quick deck techs that'll show you all of the cards in the deck and how they work together to ultimately achieve the goals of that deck. If you're not already, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. And we also have a sister channel now, so head on over to Commander Coliseum and check out their content as well. And for today's deck tech, we have another Halloween brew focused on curses with Lynde, Cheerful Tormentor. So Lynde has a very unique ability here that is focused on enchantments that are curses. So she has Death Touch, she's a 2/4, and then when a curse is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you return it to the battlefield attached to you at the beginning of the next end step. So that's kind of brutal, right? You're going to have the curses. But the second ability here says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may attach a curse attached to you to one of your opponents, and if you do, you draw 2 cards. So what we're going to be doing here is we are going to be playing a ton of curses. We're going to be cursing our opponents and equipping them with all of these problems. And then if it ends up that they do remove these curses and they come back to us, we have ways of putting them back onto our opponents and making sure we are not the ones being cursed. Super affordable here, under $100 for this deck. TCG market value is $61 to $77, and our land count is 35, with 21 of those being basics between the 3 colors, and 14 of those being non-basics. So getting into it today, we're going to be focused with Lynn on finding curses and then having all of these different strategies to make sure that our opponents are the ones that suffer and not us. So it is Halloween, and that is what we are doing. So getting into it, here's our first suite of curses today. So we're running Torment of Scarabs, which says you enchant a player. At the beginning of that player's upkeep, they lose 3 life unless they sack a permanent or discard a card. So broken. Curse of Surveillance says at the beginning of their upkeep, any number of target players other than that player draw cards equal to the number of curses attached to that player. That one's so broken. Curse of Thirst says at their upkeep, it does damage to that player equal to the number of curses they have. Curse of Obsession says at the beginning of enchanted player's draw step, they draw 2 additional cards, but then at their end step, they have to discard their hand, so not that good. Curse of the Restless Dead says they're making zombies whenever a land enters on their battlefield, you're creating a zombie with decay. Curse of Misfortune says the beginning of that player's upkeep, you search your library for, at the beginning of your upkeep, you search for your library for a curse that doesn't have the same name as a curse attached, and you get to attach it to that player. So broken, because that's the thing about these enchantments, they are technically on your side of the field and not necessarily moving to your opponent. You're just kind of targeting them with the auras. Curse of Hospitality says that creatures attacking an enchanted player have trample, and then when a creature deals combat damage to them, that player exiles the top card of their library until end of turn. The creature's controller can play that card and spend mana anyway. Curse of Bloodletting is so broken, it's doubling up the damage that they're taking. And then a Curse Witch is a creature that says spells your opponent's cast that target her costs 1 less to cast. And then when a Curse Witch dies, because you want her to die, she comes back transformed as a curse. So you get to enchant a player. Spells you cast that target that player cost 1 less to cast, so it's making your curses cheaper. And then at the beginning of that player's upkeep, they lose a life and you gain a life. So just kind of some mana fixing for these expensive curses. We're running Trespasser's Curse as well. When a creature enters on their field, they lose a life and you gain. Maddening Hex says that when they cast it on creature spell, you roll a d6 and it does damage to them equal to that number. And then you have to attach it to someone else at random. And then we've got Curse of Verbosity, Curse of Disturbance, and Curse of Opulence, that when the enchanted players are attacked, you're either getting draw zombies or treasures. Curse of Unbinding says at the beginning of their upkeep, that player reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature, and then you get that creature. Oh, so good. That card's broken. Curse of the Shallow Grave says when a player attacks the enchanted player, they get zombies. Curse of Shaken Faith says that when an enchanted player casts the spell, other than their first spell, it does 2 damage to them. Curse of Echoes says that when they cast an instant or sorcery, everybody else can copy it. And then Curse of Fool's Wisdom, love the art on this guy, but whenever enchanted player draws a card, they're losing life and you're gaining. So really, really good. And that is our suite of curses with the keyword of curse. And then with Lynde, we also care about the upkeep. So there are cards that double up upkeep. So in case a lot of these curses are removed and come back attached to us, we want ways of moving them. So if we double the upkeep triggers with Lynde, then we get to move multiple curses. So cards like Sphinx of the Second Sun, Obeka Splitter of Seconds, and Paradox Haze all give you additional upkeeps to move additional curses and draw more. And then we've got ways of sacrificing the curses as well. So let's say they are attached to us. We can sacrifice them before the problem part of them occurs, right? So Tavern Scoundrel lets you sacrifice, and then you get to flip a coin. And if you win, you get treasures. Puka's Mischief isn't necessarily sacrifice, but it lets you exchange non-land permanents if they have the same type or equal or lesser mana value. Slaughter Priest of Mogus lets you sack a creature or enchantment and he gains first strike. Farsight Ritual, Ice Out, and Rowan's Grim Search all have a bargain cost attached to them where you can sack an enchantment as you cast the spell, and if you do, you get additional value. Read the Ruins says you draw X cards, and for each card this way, you have to discard a card unless you sack a permanent, so we would be sacking, the curses that are attached to us. Claws of Gix says you can sack one to gain a life. Dream Shaper Shaman lets you get more out of your deck if you sack it. And then Demon of Fate's Design boosts his power equal to the enchantment's mana value. And then Blood Aspirant lets you do it to have him deal a damage to target creature. And then that creature can't block for the turn. And then additional enchantment payoffs, not too many here. We're not going for like an Enchantress build. We're more focused on the curses. So Wicked Visitor, when they go to the graveyard, everybody drains. Grim Guardian says when they enter, they drain life. Bitter Heart Witch, when it dies, you get to search for a curse and put it onto the battlefield. So she's super broken. Forgeborn Orid says that when it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, it does a damage to creature or player. And then Blightcaster is targeted removal by giving creatures -2 until end of turn. And then we've got additional good stuff in the deck. So we're running Singularity Rupture, which lets you not only blow up the board, but it also forces people to mill half their library rounded down. You get to choose the target, so that it won't be you. Counter spells are an offer you can't refuse and negate. We're running a Propaganda to protect us, as well as Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs, which makes us ogres unless they pay 3. We're running Chaos Warp for targeted removal. Blasphemous Act as our board wipe as well. Cowlif, Beloved of the Sea, says that creatures and enchantments you control have spells costing 1 more if opponents are gonna target them. So it's kind of some protection for all of this. And then we're running a Crystal Chimes to return all of the curses from our graveyard to our hand late game. Hellish Rebuke, if they deal damage to us, they're going to have to sack those permanents and lose 2 life. And then not necessarily curses, but sort of, with Captive Audience and Grievous Wound. Captive Audience says that it enchants a player when it comes in, and they have to choose between the 3 modes of their life total becoming 4, discarding their hand, or everybody making zombies. And then Grievous Wound says that when enchanted player is dealt damage, they lose half their life rounded up, and they also can't gain life. So really, really broken there. And then we've got lots of draw on the deck, so we're running Zansha Sleeper Agent. She enters on an opponent's side, and anybody can pay 3 into her to then draw and make that person lose life. Perilous Research lets you draw 2 cards, and then you can sack a curse that's attached to you. Read the Bones is letting you scry 2 and then draw. Infernal Tribute, it costs 3 black, but you can sack a card and play to draw, so you can sack these curses to draw cards. Entity Tracker lets you draw when an enchantment enters. God Eternal Bond 2 is letting you sack any number of permanents, and then you get to draw that many, so you kind of can sack a ton of curses if they're attached to you. Braids Arisen Nightmare lets you choose one, and they have to sack one that's the same type, otherwise you draw. And then Brainstorm and Ashiok's Reaper are all letting you draw as well. Ashiok's Reaper specifically when an enchantment is put into the graveyard, you draw. So if multiple of these are out, you're going to be drawing a ton of cards when you're dealing with these curses. And then finally, our mana in the deck, nothing too crazy. We're running Soul Rain, Arcane Signet as our rocks, Chromatic Lantern to correct our lands to every type, Cloud Keys making our enchantments cost 1 less, and then Wayfarer's Bauble is letting you fetch a land out for whatever you might need. And with that, our show has come to an end. Thank you so much for watching our video, and if you enjoyed that video, feel free to share it out with any friends who might find value in it as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. We hope to see you again soon. Have a good one.